talk to you guys.
All right.
Yes.
Question for Vincent. I know you're going to Brown this September, so right? Can we expect you back for next Olympic?
We'll see. Going to Brown full time is a big commitment, so it'll be difficult to continue competing full time, training full time simultaneously. But I'm keeping my options open. The Boston Skating Club is a newly built rink that's very close to Providence, so that's a new option for me that wasn't available in 2019.
Just in case you don't know, we connected also have a rink at New London, at Com College. Just in case you want to know that.
Yeah. I skated at lots of rinks in the New England area when I was at Brown in 2019, so I'm definitely no stranger to keeping my options open and exploring the area.
Yes. Okay, how long do we practice? So I practice probably like 2 or 3 hours a day on the ice, and then additionally a couple hours off the ice. When I was younger, it was a little bit more on the ice, but now I do more off ice, lots of fun things like Pilates, I do sometimes dance, I do strength training. Anybody know that?
No, it's exactly what Mariah was saying. We definitely spend a lot, as we get older, a lot more time off the ice, kind of training our bodies, and a lot of focus on recovery, and just keeping ourselves strong. But yeah, we basically spend about, it's like a full-time job, about 9 to 5, dedicated to skating, but that's a mix of on the ice, off the ice, and everything in between.
Do you have anything to add? I'm sure it's about the same.
You guys.
Yeah. That's a wonderful question, and it's something that I try to get a lot of, but not always. But I'm really fortunate, so my training doesn't start until a little bit later in the day. But usually I fall asleep around like 11, and I wake up at like 8. So I get a decent amount of sleep. It's not always like that, but
I shoot for 10 hours a day.
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I shoot for.
What are you, 11? This is wonderful.
I think 9 is like the golden number for athletes. Typically, I try to my training schedule, my training day ends. My day ends at like 9 or 10 o'clock, and I wake up before 7. So it's a good number. But historically, I've always had a hard time falling asleep. So melatonin has sort of become my friend. But yeah, 10 hours is great, Jason. Wish I could get 2 hours.
Go for it.
So we're all out of high school. I know that Vincent and Jason are taking classes. I'm not currently taking classes. I was going to University of Colorado in Colorado Springs before I moved to California. But for me, I really have to dedicate myself to one thing at a time. So my focus has solely been on skating recently. And I do plan to go back to school, but these last 4 years especially, I've really dedicated my time to skating.
Yeah, go for it. Sure.
Yes, we were all in the Olympics.
Were they all at Olympics?
It's really great. He expects a lot out of his athletes. So he comes in every day with a lot of energy. And the way that we train is, we're all on the ice together on these two long sessions, and he kind of splits his time and moves around and sees us doing things and pulls us over and talks to us. So it's really, really neat that way. But he has a lot of energy and expects a lot out of his athletes. So you can definitely feel his energy and his excitement, and he's really focused, and he's great to work with.
Are you guys enjoying this the start on ice more or actual competition more? And also, I want to say congratulations to Vincent for your bronze on the World Champions. I felt so bad for you during the Olympic, but you made it to the World Championship. It is so good. I watched every single one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so do you guys enjoy this more or the actual competition more?
What's really nice about this tour is like it really just feels like a celebration. You know, unlike any other year ever, and this is my third Olympic tour, there's something so special about this group of athletes. And on top of that, we haven't gotten to perform in front of people in 2 years. And I think at least I did, I think I took that for granted a bit. And so the last 2 years have been really tough, kind of performing in empty arenas. Or in front of cardboard cutouts. So that's been difficult. I try my best as I'm performing to like pretend like everyone's watching and through the camera and just like perform as much as I could. But this really just feels like a celebration tour and getting to travel with all of your closest teammates and friends and get to perform in front of people like you guys. It's been a real treat for all of us. Go for it.
Hey, are you guys looking for ice to skate on tomorrow?
We won't be here tomorrow. We're leaving tonight. But thank you. We have another show tomorrow.
Yes.
In
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
In Providence.
Providence.
Speaking of brown.
Yeah. But thank you.
Oh, I wish. Are you skate nearby?
Yeah, ice is
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome.
That's a great question. I started like gymnastics a little bit when I was little, and then did a little bit of ballet. But skating was what I always liked the most, so I stuck to that the most.
My parents put me in a lot of sports when I was little because I had so much energy. They couldn't, handle me at home. So they put me into soccer, basketball, swimming, tennis, t-ball, many things. I think soccer stuck with me, and I played for 5 years, and I was pretty good at it. But ultimately, I gave up everything for skating.
Yeah, kind of like Vincent, I played a lot of different sports. I was on a travel soccer team all the way through 8th grade. I ran cross country in middle school. I also played on a Little League baseball team, and did gymnastics. Great question. Yeah, go for it. The boy next to you. But you can be next. I think I was like 10 or 11. But the reason we rushed, I remember for me, I rushed to do it because they were about to change the rules and change all the patterns. So I ended up going really fast and trying to get them all done really early on. So probably when I was 9, 10, 11-ish.
Same for me, yeah.
Same for me.
Yeah. Now go for it. Sorry, yeah, you can go.
Alright, it's a lot of young boys and girls here, so I just want you to tell them how do you guys balance between academic study and your skating? What was the struggle? How did you handle it? Do you regret something a little bit now? Thank you.
Sure, I'll start. Balancing skating and school was very difficult for me, especially because my family expected a lot out of both. I mean, if I was going to skate, I had to be, top level, and if I wanted to focus on school, I also had to perform at the top level there. My sister is an MIT graduate. She just got into Stanford and other top universities, so that's what I'm competing with within my own family. And I mean, for me, one of the biggest things that allowed me to excel in both was going to online school. I switched to Connection Academy when I was 8 years old, and that instantly allowed me much more flexibility with my training schedule. But above all, it's your own commitment. It's following your own vision. You have to want it badly enough. And of course, your family will always be there to push you and take care of you. But in the end, it comes down to yourself.
Yeah, go for it. One more time.
like growing up, I really only did skating. But there was a couple times that I wanted to I was like I don't want to skate anymore. And then I was pretty young, and so but my parents were like that's totally fine. But we bought like 6 weeks of lessons, so just finish your lessons, and then you don't ever have to skate again. And then I would get to the end of the 6 weeks, and I'd be like, well, I guess I'll keep skating. I don't know, fine. So I always came back to it, but I always thought swimming was like so cool. My mom was like, I'll get you a swimsuit in every color because it's cheaper than ski. so you can have every single swimsuit you want, but I always stuck with skating.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Oh yeah. And what's the second one? How do you feel when you can't do it anymore?
I would say I'll just jump in really quick, and then I know we all have great advice to share, but I mean, for me, it's something that I've always struggled with, nerves and kind of anxiety around competition. I've kind of come up with ways to help manage it, but it's always something that I've had to work through. And so for me, like I just cry. I cry at competition sometimes. Like right before I skate, I just cry, and it helps. But it's really because I'm so nervous, and there's a lot of expectation. But maybe you just put on yourself because you just want to do well. That's totally normal. And if you're feeling that way, it's because you care about what you're doing. So that's great. But I would say that just trying to keep things in perspective and lean on your family and friends. And I do something called mindfulness sometimes, and it's kind of like meditating, but it's just to calm yourself. But you'll develop kind of tools that you can use as you go on, but it's so normal. So normal. It's also normal to not want to keep skating and to maybe want to get a swimsuit in every color for swimming, but then you decide you don't want to skate still. So it's really what you just have to do what makes you happiest.
You want to do the second part?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess this is a hard question to answer, especially because of how recent my Olympic struggle and then getting to Worlds after that was. But after the Olympics, I really did have a very hard time. Many days I couldn't go near my skates, and the day after we were supposed to confirm our flights to France for Worlds, my parents were still like, "Hey, let's go on vacation next week. You don't have to do this." And hearing that from my mom, who's been a really tough parent my whole life, was just completely shocking, and created this strange dissonance in my head that I was like, maybe it is okay if I give up. And once you allow that seed of doubt to be planted, it might as well be all over. So it took, I don't know how I did it. It took all the strength in the world to move past that all that doubt and the feeling of loss and grief almost. I mean, the Olympic experience was something that I always thought I would have with me for the rest of my life, and it was taken away from me in the most unlikely way. So that's very comparable to losing a loved one who's it's also something that you think is going to be with you through your whole life. So I'll go back to what I said earlier about, in the end, it all comes down to yourself. You have to want it bad enough, and for me, the only thought that got me to Worlds was, I don't want to live with the regret for the rest of my life that I didn't even try. So I got myself on a flight to Worlds. I put one foot in front at a time and walked away with the medal. So.
You did it!
Go for it. One more time. Do you know what's really cool is that I got inspired to skate because I saw my sister skate in an ice show. And like 22 years later, I'm still skating an ice show. And so that to me is pretty exciting and really cool. And I just think it's something that I'm just so passionate about. And that was actually what got me into the sport, just seeing the lights and the kids performing and looking like they're having such a great time. And I wanted to be part of that. So the fact that, like I said, I get to do that 22 years later and get to still be performing is such a dream.
How long have you been skating for? Good question.
I've been skating for 22 years. It's a long time.
I've been skating for 23 years. How about that?
I've been skating for 16 years, so I'm not as good as that.
But like, let's be honest, Vincent isn't even 22. So.
I didn't think about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
It's so much fun. We just get to travel. We're a really close group of friends, so this tour especially has just been so much fun. And it's all about skating together, having, getting to skate in front of fans again, which, like you said, we haven't really been able to do that recently. So that's so cool. And then, just to get to hang out. We get to go on the bus. We sleep on these big buses, and we just hang out all day long, and we skate. And it's really, I've always come to see them. This is my first time being on it, so it's so cool. And we've just been having a blast, I think.
Yeah, sure.
So when you were at the point when you thought you were giving your all, and then all of a sudden somebody is saying, no, you're not, and you found a way. What do you do in that case?
I think for me, it's probably happened in every athlete's, like at some point in every athlete's life and in their career. For me, I've always whenever I have those moments of doubt or people saying things like, it's kind of your time or, kind of move on. I think for me at least, I go back to why I do it. Why am I skating? What's kind of, for me, why is it fulfilling? And it always kind of pushes me to continue or pushes me to go forward. And I kind of find that motivation within myself. Because at the end of the day, if you are loving it, and one of the things that I love so much about our sport is that the things that you learn that you can apply, whether it's in the rink or outside of the rink, it just helps you become a better person, and the goal setting and working towards different achievements and kind of persevering and pushing through and learning all those different life lessons. So I think that no matter what, you're always going to be learning something. You're always be able to grow, whether other people can see that or not. Is more on them. I think, but for me, I think that's always been a really key thing, is coming back to why do I want to do this instead of listening to everyone else in those moments.
A really useful tool for when that happens, because we go through moments like that every single day in training, is the simple thought about keeping an open mind to the possibility of, say, skating a clean program when you don't feel like you can. Just to keep an open mind. That's a thought that grounds yourself. It's a thought that kind of frees yourself from doubts or negative things you may be feeling or thinking at the moment. So that's just a very useful tip.
What do you think? Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
We'll go here, and then we'll go here.
What do you think some are like the big sacrifices that you guys have made and given all the work and effort? What's the FOMO that you guys feel probably throughout your career?
So when I was, 12, my sister, my mom, and I moved to Colorado for training, and my dad stayed in Texas for his job. So we would only see my dad on the weekends, and my parents did that for years, for my sister and I. And, I got to this level. My sister was in Disney on Ice for several years, so I look at it now, like I knew they were making a sacrifice at the time, But now being older, I know what I've been in, relationships. I know, obviously I haven't had kids, but to take such a big leap of faith, I can't thank them enough for that. So that's a whole different thing that my parents did. But for me, it's like, okay, I went to public high school. As I mentioned before, I'm not somebody who can balance two things at once. And for my parents, it was really important that I complete high school, and then I could take my training further. So I think that's kind of why I sort of bloomed later. And so I didn't really start putting all of my energy into skating until after high school. That's when I kind of moved. But even within high school, I was doing a lot for skating still. I wasn't going out with friends as much, or I wasn't at school all day long. So there's little sacrifices, but the biggest thing is I don't have a college experience, like a full-on college experience, and I won't ever really have that because I will be older, right? So I won't go in, with the freshman group and be like, I'm on campus, which I would like to experience that, but I know all that I did was worth it because I had this amazing experience this year, and to make my family proud and myself proud. It's like the give and take, and I'm so happy with everything that happened. But it's, everybody has sacrifices to get. It's cool to learn about stories and what people have given up, because everybody's given up a lot to get to this level, for sure. Favorite jump? Hardest jump? For me, hardest jump is triple Lutz, I guess. Yeah, but it's also my favorite, so that's good.
I mean, I would say quad Lutz, but with the arms up.
I would like to say that he does it often, and it does not look hard at all. It's like perfection and magical. Yeah, he'll just randomly come on the ice and just do quads nonstop. It's like a dream. Yeah, I would say quad sow and toe, and it's very not regular when I do them, so that's why they're really hard for me. But every so often. Yeah.
Can you guys take this opportunity explain to us the difference between those quadruple? There are so many lots, and what's the name? There's several kinds of the spin. What's the difference? I cannot tell the difference.
Okay, so there's six types of jumps.
Yeah.
The first one is the axle. It takes off forward. That's what makes it unique. All other jumps take off from a backwards edge. The axle, since it takes off forward and lands back, all jumps land backwards. The axle is the only jump that has a half revolution added to the jump. Number two is the sow cow. It's a backwards takeoff jump. It's an edge jump. Number three is a toe loop. That's a toe jump. So that's the second type of jump, edge jumps and toe jumps. It also takes off backwards. It's the most common quadruple. If you see someone doing a quad, it's likely a quadruple toe loop. Number four is the loop jump. That's a backwards takeoff edge jump. And it's pretty uncommon to see quadruple loops. Number five is the flip. And no, I don't mean backflips or front flips. The quad flip, I think the best example of a quad flip is Nathan Chen. He's made that his primary quadruple. I guess actually no, he's insane at quad toes too, but he's insane at everything. And then finally, number six is the quad Lutz. The difference between the flip and the Lutz, because they look almost identical, the flip takes off from an inside edge, the Lutz takes off from an outside edge. So, yeah, it's acceptable.
Take a different perspective to it. Like if there's lessons that are a little bit tougher, those are days when you can, problem solve a little bit more with technique, even just chatting with your coach more, trying to, create a better relationship with them. Those days I think are what you remember the most because you to get the most out of them, and also what you, yeah, I think it's probably what you really learn the most from. And they're super common, and you know, I think probably that's something that's like applicable, like probably everyday jobs is kind of the same. I would assume you have good days, you have days that aren't so good. But yeah, great question, but so normal. I think we've all had those lessons at lunch.
And I think we have time for just one more.
What are the people that inspire you to become very good in ice skating?
My first inspiration was Evan Lysenchuk, 2010 Olympic champion. So when I first, fun story, when I first moved to Southern California to train with Tammy Gamble in 2009, that year the World Championships were held in Los Angeles. So naturally, I begged my mom for tickets. I cried and screamed and really wanted to go see Evan compete live. And the week before Worlds, my mom was literally holding the tickets above my head, like saying, you have to do this if you want to go. And I don't think I probably haven't. I feel like I haven't tried any harder than I did that week to skate well, so I could go watch Evan at the World Championships. And then we ended up going, he won. It was just the most inspiring thing ever, having just moved to a new location, making that huge sacrifice for skating. That was like a super rewarding moment. And then the following year, he won the Olympics.